And we're back. Some more Factorio. And today we're going to be getting straight into nuclear power. Now there's been a few suggestions in the comments that I've been moving a bit quickly on this playthrough. And yeah, I kind of have. Reason being, it's been a while since I've played, and I'm just really excited to sort of get back into everything. So I'm going to slow it down just a tinge today and explain things a little bit better. So when I'm putting together my nuclear reactor, it won't seem quite so confusing. We're going to start at how I'd start it and then how it expands. First off, this is our old base. This is where our old base used to be. It's actually becoming... This is our original starter where we had a little bit of copper and we put together our small little facilities to knock out red and green. And if you check on the map here, you see our base is actually sort of growing towards it. It's expanded so far. But we are going to use this water pile over here for making our nuclear power. Now, let's set up our first reactor. This is what our little power plant is going to look like to start. We're only putting down one reactor to start, just as a demonstration, but we're going to be ramping this up rather quickly. Now, I know this all looks very confusing, but the only thing we need to worry about is we've just chucked out a bunch of nuclear fuel onto the line. For every 1 piece of shiny uranium and 20 pieces of dull uranium, you get 10 of these nuclear fuel rods, which get chucked into the nuclear reactor, and then they burn over 200 seconds. It takes 200 seconds for them to be burned, and while they're doing it, they cause the reactor to heat up. Now, if you look in there, you see the reactor's temperature. Bottom right of the middle right of the screen, there's a temperature. It's 56, 60, 61, 62. The temperature is slowly going up, and that temperature is getting chucked out on these metal pipes here. And those metal pipes here are interacting with these heat exchangers, or they're exchanging heat with these heat pipes, whatever way you want to look at it. And they're slowly heating up. You can see the temperature in there is also rising on all of these. So the reactor heats up, it causes these pipes to heat up, which causes these heat exchangers to heat up. And those heat exchangers are plugged into some water supply down here. So we've got water pumped into the heat exchanger, same as those boilers we were using before. And that's going to turn into steam, though these things are special. They don't activate until they hit 500 C. This way you can't use the steam boilers, the early game steam boilers to run these. You need to have these ones to work. So once these hit 500 C, they're going to start outputting steam onto this pipe. That pipe is dumped across here and connects up to these steam turbines. Now I'm going to put down some power connectors to these in a minute. Actually, let's do that now. Power is in place for that, and this is just about to be spend its fuel rod. Once this fuel rod is spent, you're going to end up with used up uranium fuel cells. Now you should really recycle those. So we have set up a little uranium refinement right down here on the spot just to help us produce our uranium fuel without much effort. This way we don't have to transport it a long distance. Now you're probably wondering what this older uranium setup over here was. Oh damn it! I need to install a radar there once we have power. But the much larger one we had over there, that's more for our atomic weapons program later on, and it's better to get that started up sooner rather than later because it does take a while to ramp up production. Anyway, this has it spit that out, and you'll notice that the used up uranium fuel cell has ended up down here. Once you have 5 of those, that gets recycled and turned into dull uranium, but we don't really care too much. That's then going to get recycled in here in the centrifuge, and it gets rid of the waste and gives us more to work with. Now, at the moment, this is not quite at 500 degrees, so let's zone out and come back in a minute. And right now, we hit 500 C on the reactor, and then that slowly spreads down here, and all of these slowly start hitting 500 C. For example, that one's hit 500, that one's just about to hit it, that's just behind, and that's 492. And you'll see these steam turbines are starting to kick in and generate power. How do you figure out, though, how much of each you use without just going to a ratio table? Well, it's to do with the reactor themselves. If you look at the reactor, it'll tell you what the output is in the bottom right, just below the temperature. This is a 40 megawatt reactor, so it outputs 40 megawatts. These steam turbines, they consume 5.8 megawatts. Quick look at my calculator here tells me then I would need 6.89 steam turbines to consume all the power produced by this reactor. And there is 7 of them right here. And let's do a Control C. There you go. There should be 7. There's 7 steam turbines right there, meaning we're consuming all the power from that. And if they just did that, they would be a decent source of power. It's 40 megawatts. That's actually pretty good. That's taking us out of a hole. However, they come with some other advantages. First up, we're going to chuck in another reactor right here. And when we stick in that reactor right there, it's got this 100% neighbor bonus. This one here is not kicked in yet, but this one here, this new one, you'll see that it's got a plus 100% neighbor bonus. That means it produces 80 megawatts. Because it's touching another active reactor, it gives it a plus 40 megawatt bonus, meaning this one's going to generate twice as much power as one on its own. As well as that, once you put reactor fuel in this, it will also trigger this one to have a neighbor bonus. The neighbor bonus is only active if you have a reactor touching you that is or has nuclear fuel in it. So the two of these combined will produce 160 megawatts between the two of them. And all we have to do to get that done is just put on some little transport belts here. There you go. And now that reactor is starting to kick in, and this one's gotten a neighbor bonus, which has cranked it up to 80 megawatts. One of the downsides of it going up to 80 megawatts, though, is... Wait, what happened? I severed power somewhere. 1 second. Oh, wait. Yes, when this reactor was put down, it drained some of the heat out of the system, so it shut things down for a minute. But with this reactor up and running now, these things sort of share steam, so it's actually sending its power down here. It's time I expanded this all out to account for the extra power. And considering they're both generating 80 megawatts apiece, we're going to have to hook up extra water, extra steam turbines. Give me 1 minute. To make this work, we had to scale it up quite a bit. For starters, we're generating 80 megawatts instead of 40, so we had to double the amount of steam turbines up to 14, just to consume all of the power that was being produced. And one thing I forgot to cover as well was, how do you figure out how many of these steam boilers do you need, or heat exchangers? Well, it's to do with how much steam they produce. Each one consumes 103 grams of water and produces 103 steam. Yeah, you can see there in the middle right under consumes water 103. That's how much steam it's also producing. You can see generate steam at the bottom 103. So what you have to do is figure out how many steam turbines you need, in this case 14, and then you have to figure out, well, okay, I need 14 steam turbines. Each steam turbine consumes 60 grams a second, or why am I saying grams? Sorry, oxygen not included talk. So it consumes 60 water a second. That means that you just divide 840, 14 by 60 gives you 840. 840 divided by 103 gives you 8.15 of these, so I just threw down 9. That way we're producing as much power as we need. Now let's try something here. We're going to sever this from the main grid and then just check the power. And you'll see here we're producing 174 megawatts, or we have the potential to produce 174 megawatts. Yeah, I'm going to call that a win, but we're not finished yet. This is just the start. What we're going to do is throw down another one. We want a third. In fact, you know what? Let's just stop messing around, shall we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, let's go with 6. We're going to stick down that many. Now, the only thing to realize is this one here is going to end up very heavily boosted. The reason being it's going to have one on either... Actually, this one here is going to end up very heavily boosted. It'll have one on either side. All of these ones, bar the edge ones, will be double boosted, meaning they'll produce, I think it's 180. Wait, let me double check. You know what? Let's just build it. And done. Okay. This design is going to look very different from most of the ones you've probably seen out there. I did a bit of looking myself to see what the reactor designs were, and, well, some of them are great. I prefer expandability overall. This thing will cover its bonuses later on and its negatives, but this is so simple, it's just stupid. This produces heat. The heat goes down the pipe. It heats up these heat exchangers. They dump out steam. The steam gets brought across here on a pipe and gets dumped into these steam turbines to generate the power. And there's quite a lot of them. We don't need all of these steam turbines. I'll cover why in a minute. But effectively what we can do is if we need more power, we just throw in an extra reactor and an extra reactor and an extra reactor, and we can just keep adding them on all across here. Now what I'd like to do is keep these as skinny as possible so that I can tap into this water supply. For example, with this water supply, I can just keep leapfrogging across and adding in more and more and more until we get to about there. Then we won't have any more water to work with. At that point, I suppose we could start putting them elsewhere, but I like it convenient. Now, these 4 reactors in the middle, all of them are double boosted. You look at the bottom there and you can see they're getting a plus 200% neighbor bonus, so they're getting 120 megawatts. So instead of generating 40, which they do on their own, they're getting an extra plus 40 because of this one, and an extra plus 40 because of that one, giving them 120. But of course, all of these ones in here are getting that. Except for the ones on the outside, they're only generating 80 megawatts. So realistically, we don't need this many steam turbines for the edge ones. The edge ones could get away with less. But, you know, then it doesn't look symmetrical. So instead, we just leave them there and we just keep extending it on. I mean, at some point, I'm going to add on another reactor or 10, and when I do, there'll just be the space there for it. Done. Dusted. Now, let's maybe have a quick look at something else before we move on. This here is my test it map, where I test out the designs that before I implement them on the map itself, or before I implement them in my game. And here's where I came up with my nuclear reactor design. Now, this over here would be sort of a more traditional design. The reason being it has these 4 reactors touching each other. That way all of them get a 200% bonus, as opposed to, well, this sort of sloppy design over here where I have to put in 6 reactors. The reasoning for this is actually to do with just how skinny you can make it. Just for accessing water. Water is always that thing where you're going to be trying to access it to get them, and I don't want to be squidging around too much. And it turns out, putting them this way, yeah, you can just stretch them full lengthwise, and then it's just one long string where you just plop them down again and again and again, and it just makes putting them together so much simpler. The reasons I went with that as opposed to this design is just to do with a few things. One, these steam turbines themselves are just as wide as the reactors if you put them that way. So you kind of have to put them facing upwards or vertically if you want to be able to stretch them beside the reactor and still keep them in line. You can't have these too wide. If you have these too wide, two heat exchangers wide, it won't fit in line with the reactor, which means you need to, squish them off some way to the side. If I wanted to keep these things in line, I had to do them basically one tile wide. That was it. I couldn't have two of them adjacent to each other. It just wouldn't work. And finally, when it came time to doing it, if you want to try and do it this way, the problem I encountered was, well, I like to bring in the water from one side. The reason being, you want these as close to these reactors as possible, because these heat pipes, they lose heat. The longer they travel, the harder it is for the heat to get there. So for example, this here, the heat has to get all the way from the reactors over here, all the way over to this corner. It's only at 533 degrees over here. Yet when you get closer to it, it's, 800 or so. You don't want the pipes going too far. This meant you kind of want these on one side of it, but then that kind of gets in the way of the steam turbines, so you'd like the steam turbines on the other side. However, you can't conveniently get the steam across. You can't get one of these to reach the whole way. They just don't quite make it. But by stripping these down to just having them one reactor wide, I saved myself a bunch of hassle. It made it just extremely easy to reproduce, extremely easy to create, and at the same time, you can just chuck on a whole bunch of nuclear fuel down here and just keep extending it on indefinitely so long as you can get the water. And, that's why we ended up this way. So in conclusion, this is not the most efficient reactor design. However, it will work just fine and is simple to put together. I do it with, if you've got Kovacs enrichment, or Kovacs, whatever enrichment, you can just keep extending this on indefinitely. Actually, let's check something here. If we sever that, the potential for 745 megawatts. Yep. Now it's time to beacon this place up to the nines. We're going to take our entire core base and we're going to start beaconing it up. We're going to concentrate on green and blue circuits first, and then we'll go back into red. The reason being, speed modules, productivity modules, all those modules require red, blue, and green circuits. That's the only thing they require. And we're going to want a lot of them. And, well, the speed and productivity modules. So what we first want to do is boost the production of all the stuff that allows us to produce more speed and productivity modules. One moment. First thing we're going to do is we're going to crank up production of productivity modules, namely by putting in level 3 assemblers. The level 3 assemblers give them a nice big boost. At the same time, it allows us to put more modules in them. So now, they've got a hell of a lot more speed, which is going to start draining our red and green circuits an awful lot faster. Now that that's done, I put this on at the end, it's just to get rid of some speed modules. We had a whole bunch of level 2 speed modules I made at some point, and now we're just going to turn them all into level 3s. But next up was the blue circuits. I have removed the localized sulfuric acid production that was going on here. You know what, that can all go, and this water can all go. Yeah, I removed all that and plugged it into our main bus for sulfuric acid. Before we beacon and beacon this up, we've changed these to level 3 assemblers. Now they can take 4 modules instead of 2. And we're going to put a whole bunch of speed beacons down the side here. But we're going to get our productivity modules, if we have any left. We've only got 16 of them left. Well, yeah, that could have really helped out. We'll get rid of the level 2s that are in there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to beacon this up with a whole chunk of speed modules. All right, 1 second. Come on. Move it. We'll just do one side for now. Now, as you can see, those speed beacons are also affecting this on the other side, which should help us speed up battery production and a few other things. It's not going to be perfect. Some of these are going to be too long, like these ones here out at the end are not really doing much. But these ones in the middle here are doing an awful lot better. And it does mean we don't have to do a massive redesign of our base just yet. And it should help us boost productivity modules, or the speed of module production. That's most of blue circuit production done. Unfortunately, that's started to cause red circuits to stall out. The reason being, we are now consuming red circuits too fast. Just the normal Factorio things. So now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go to the red circuits and do something similar, though this needs to be modified slightly. The reason being, I haven't quite kept everything in line. Let me do some checks. This red circuit mess has to go. I made it 2 tiles wide, or I had it too wide when I first put it in, so I'm going to have to trim this down a bit. So I'm just going to disconnect the resources for now, and we're going to replace this with a new and improved red design that should hopefully be a little bit more compact. And our new red circuits is up. This was also built in the wrong position because I messed up as well, and it was interfering with these speed beacons, so we had to rip out this science. Oh well, it's fine. At least we have the spaces and we know where everything goes, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Now this, We're going to hook this up here. This is just red circuit production. We produce the copper coils on site. They get whisked into this, and then all we need is electronic circuits and plastic to go with it. The electronic circuits and plastic come in under here, under these underground belts. They get picked up by these and dumped in. The output all goes out through a weaved red belt. Though there is one little thing here where we sort of chicane it sideways to dump in so that we can get up to about 900 red circuits per minute. Well, that's just what it should work out at eventually. It looks like it's getting there just about. The thing is, we will have to do some upgrades onto our main bus. It will require like a blue belt's worth of green and plastic to keep this going. So I think, well, yeah, this might actually work out. Well, that gives us an awful lot of red circuits, like an absolute butt ton. This smaller, much smaller grid is producing even more than our huge giant one was. Though that's, yeah. And with that up and running, that means all of our speed modules and productivity modules and all that are going to start churning along a lot faster. Though, yeah, it's taking a little bit of time to catch up with the backlog. Let's give this another minute. After letting this run for a while, you'll notice our red circuits are maxing out about 500. They're actually running short on plastic and green circuits, which we're going to have to improve. Blue circuits are about 100 per minute, and then green circuits are about 2.8. So all that's happened is every time we improve something, it puts a draw on something else, which means we have to upgrade that to keep up with the improved draw on somewhere else. It's the gameplay loop of Factorio that keeps you coming back for 40 hours straight. Well, maybe not 40 hours straight, but close enough that when you first start playing this, trust me, you end up burning about 40 hours in the first few days. It's amazing. And what we're going to do is we're going to go down here and we're going to beacon and module up this section. This has been pretty much pre-designed and is just good to go. We should just be able to put in a row of beacons down here which will affect both sides, put in some productivity modules, and there we go. All of those speed beacons down the middle, that speeds up all the ones along the edge. We don't need these ones here at the back are not really necessary. Where is it? I'm pretty sure we can get rid of these last ones. We only need 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those 5 should be sufficient. We could chop these ones off the end. There we go. Nice and clean. Also, we can extend this on and we can do this up for all of them. They will produce full solid belts of green. Well, once we double speed beacon all of them, they'll produce full solid belts of green. But for now, I think that is sufficient. We've also upgraded a bunch of these belts to blue to carry further the green ships along better. And now our plastic is starting to slack off. Yep. This is definitely Factorio, all right. Every time you fix one bottleneck, another one rears its head. Let's improve our plastic production. New plastic is done. Alright, this one... Oh, how do I explain this one without breaking someone's brain? Never mind, we'll just have to go with the breakages. The problem with chucking out this much plastic is it's more than a single blue belt. I think it's 3,600 plastic or 3,500 plastic this spits out. Blue belt can only support, I believe it's 2,800? 2,700. Blue belt can support 2,700. This spits out 3,500. So what you kind of have to do is split it into 2 belts at the end. So some of it comes out the back, some of it comes out the front, and it all goes down this direction. It can run flat out if you needed to, but that should provide us more than enough plastic. So we've got a chunk of it being split over here and sent into our red circuit production. It's really helped out though. Red circuit production has now actually stabilized. Where is it? We'll check for the last minute. 900 red circuits. So red circuit production is now, well, perfect. Green circuit production also perfectly stable at 4.1k. This is good. Now, if you look over here, we're still good on blue. I've opened up a second module production. I should really point out, what we're trying to do here is maximize the amount of resources we have. By using... Oh, God, turn off the pollution cloud for a second. This stuff is eventually going to run out, and what we want to do is convert as much of it as possible into modules, productivity and speed. The more of those we have, the longer it will last us, sort of, technically. So we're going to... The reason we got all of that nuclear power is so that we can invest all that power in putting down beacons, modules, and then maximizing red, green, and blue circuit production so we can make more modules, and then we're going to module the entire base. It's just generally how you go about things. So with that done, I'm thinking... more red circuit production. I think we will rip out these sciences here. We don't need them for now. We can rededicate one of these towards red circuit production. Second red circuits should probably cause our green circuits to collapse, but that's sort of anticipated. We'll bring in the plastic from this side, and then we'll bring in the green circuits from that side. That should start another 9... That'll give us 900 red circuits per minute extra, so it's 1,800 red circuits per minute? Well, until our green circuits collapse, and then we have to upgrade those. But that should definitely help with module production. Now let's give it a minute, see if it stabilizes, and see what else breaks down. Oops. Looks like we ate all the copper. Just all of the copper. We're going to need a little bit more copper production, I think, if we're going to continue. Yeah, time for a little bit of an upgrade here. Do you remember at the start, when building all of these things took time and lots of patience and putting things in the right order and then not messing anything up? And now it's just you press a few buttons, and boom, it's all done for you. Okay, maybe I'll forget a few pieces and have to go back and restock up, but it's still so much more convenient. Let's move on to go grab 13 inserters. In short order, 2 more lines of copper added. Just the joy of construction but robots. Now we have 5 lines of copper, 5 lines of iron. I did a little bit of upgrading here along to make sure all the belts were up to capacity. We still have red belt feeding us, so this isn't actually 5 lines of blue, but we did upgrade it to blue for when we switch over to trains. At the same time, green has now started to fall behind. We've got the iron and we've got the copper, but we don't have enough green production. Between our red circuits and our blue circuits and our module production, we are eating through all of our green circuits at a ferocious rate. So it's time for maybe a little upgrade on these green circuits again. I'm thinking we can upgrade another couple of rows. Green circuits are now absolutely buff. Look at that. There's a very odd feature of this particular design of green circuits. You might notice here where the beacons are slightly offset. I promise I can explain. And we're back on the test map, just to demonstrate why I offset those beacons. There's an odd quirk of beacons. Well, not odd, it's the way they work. If you have beacons perfectly lined up as in parallel with an assembler, you can only fit 3 in range of it on each side. It's just the way they work out. If you see here, that 4th one there can't touch it, and if you put a 4th on this side, that can't touch it either. So what you really need to do is just offset your beacons just by 1. So if you offset your beacons by 1, you can fit 2 that side and 2 the other side. And now you fit it in range of 4 beacons on one side, and if you do the same the other side, boom, you've got one in range of 8 beacons. Well, okay, it's a little bit... 1 second, that was going to drive me nuts. There you go, so you can fit it in range of 8 beacons. However, all well and good as that is, when you start doing something like this, you have to start using direct insertion, or if you plan on using direct insertion, things get a little bit wonky. Because what happens is this one here is, this one is offset, which is fine, but because we put in this gap to put in the inserter for direct insertion, we've actually offset this one. Now this one is only in range of 6 beacons. Kind of frustrating. So that starts messing with your numbers and you're not sure what's going to happen, especially when you start making something this long. Is my copper wire going to be in range of 6 beacons? Or is my green circuit production going to be in range of 6 beacons? Or are they going to be in range of 8? I don't know which. I don't know when it's going to happen. It gets really complicated trying to figure it out. If you spend enough time, I'm sure you could. However, simpler method I found is just offset them by 1. If you offset your beacons by 1, then you don't have to care. For example, we just do that. And now what happens is every single one of them is in range of at least 7 beacons. Occasionally they'll line up where they'll be in range of 8, but minimum they will always be in range of 7. They can never be in range of 6 just from the way it's set up. Meaning I can just simplify my math and just estimate everything at being in range of 7 beacons. That means I can just work it out from that. If something ends up in range of 8 beacons, we don't care. It'll just produce a little bit more, that's fine, or maybe its production will be wasted. It doesn't really make a difference. That's the only reason I do it. Well, also having things slightly offset will drives a few people crazy. Just, there's fun to be had in that, I suppose. Anyway, that is why the beacons are offset, and this is why I like this design. It's nice, it's compact, it fits in between the 2 rows, and it gives you one solid belt of blue with no problems. Just one thing to note, on the end here we've got 3 stack inserters that kick out. The reason for those 3 is they just top up any gaps. The first 3 here pretty much produce almost a full line, but it ends up a little bit wonky and there'll be an odd gap or 2. So if you have 3 of them here, this one takes up the slack, and then whenever it goes back, if anything tries to sneak by, the second one catches it, and then if anything tries to sneak by while the second one's busy, the third one catches it, and you never get all 3 out of sync. Green circuits are now completed. Well, quite well developed, let's just say. However, we have got another problem. Red circuit production is still slacking off. And it's not green circuits, it's not copper, it's not iron, it's plastic again. We have run out of petroleum. We've got to go upgrade our oil. Yeah, it's been too long. Let's go along and upgrade our oil. This'll just take 2 minutes. We have not been completely neglecting oil. I did come along at one point and dump in a bunch of speed beacons and moduled up with some productivity modules. Ooh, they're a bit short. But the problem is it's oil. We're actually not getting in enough crude. Time to go check out our pump jacks. I guess our base is just a little bit too thirsty. Time to start tapping into every single remaining oil pocket here. On the bright side, we have cleared quite a chunk of the map, so I'm pretty sure we've got more oil well available to us. Oh, yep, there's another batch over there, so yeah, we're golden. We've got plenty of oil if we really need it. But I'd prefer to get that with train, so let's hope this tides us over for now. We now have 6 oil wells, oil refineries working. That should hopefully get our plastic production back up and running. Though that is a warning, that is an alarm bell. There's nothing really much we can do to stretch that any further. We're going to have to start getting into trains. And there is the precise moment where the oil production went right back up again. Nice. So we're up to about 1900 in red circuits. Kind of what we're looking for. 6.3 in the green, and where's the blue ones gone? 185. I don't think we've upgraded blue circuits in a while, but I think that's all we need, is it? Oh, no, actually, we do need more blue circuits. Damn it, there's always something. Okay, fine, a little bit more blue circuits, maybe. So we ramped up blue circuit production. It was actually really simple. Turns out we didn't have enough green circuits coming in here to feed this. So what we did was we split this off. This used to be a full belt of red. Instead, now it's half a belt of green, half a belt of red. So we're feeding this 1.5 blue belts of green circuits, and this thing is eating all of them. None of them are surviving to the end. You'll notice there is no green circuits making it there to the end. They're still stalling out occasionally. Yep, that's as much blue circuits as I'm comfortable in making. That's it. That's it. We've got a red, blue, and green. They're sorted. It's time to actually start doing other stuff in the base. Wow. Our bus, though, is looking pretty beautiful. I love the colours of that. Yeah, time to replace all the old sciences we ripped out. Should be fairly simple. We've got plenty of space. In fact, we might just tack them on at the end. One more, let me think. Ah, yes, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to sleep. It's 1:30 in the morning. Oh my god, this game. It just keeps sneaking up on you every damn time. Yeah, I just did a quick check there. I think there's about 35 hours in this game, so I've put in a little bit less than 6 hours per episode. Yeah, this game it really is called Factorio for a reason. There's always something else to do. There's like a line of projects I need to get done, and they're always there waiting for you. So you're always thinking, and ooh, our copper's actually slacking off a bit there. What's going on? No. I am going to sleep. Okay, this time I forgot to upload the save last time. I'll include the save if you want to rip off any of the blueprints or have a look at anything. I hope you enjoyed. I know I did. Oh, let's have a quick look at nuclear before we go. It's still working. It's still working fine, though I did have to make some minor changes to the waste. The waste was not getting eaten as well as I wanted, so instead we've now got it fed in. It's sort of doing a combined input over here with priority feed, so it takes it off this line first, and that should feed all those machines, so we shouldn't have that backing up anymore. But, oh, that reminds me, I wonder what our nuclear program's looking like. The entire system is backed up. We have so much uranium. Excellent. That's going to be wonderful when we start getting into atomic weapons. But, no. I'm going to sleep. Next episode, we'll hammer out the sciences again. We'll just throw them up, beacon them up, be done with them. And then we're going to research atomic weapons, start installing rails, and, yeah, probably get into a little bit of extermination around the outer edges of our pollution cloud, which should be looking... No, we're actually still pretty safe for it. We've got some time. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and good luck.